it's populating.
Okay, you should be good to go. Now you just let people in when they're ready. I mean, when they come in.
Okay, I got a headset on, so I'm gonna cut the phone off.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, bye. Hey there, Avery and Elder Miller.
How's it going? How's it going, Michael?
I just got connected.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Barely. Hold on. Say it again.
Testing, testing. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear
Okay.
me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay.
Perfect.
There we go.
Perfect.
I'm hoping it's not just us.
That happens sometimes. That happens sometimes, you know.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no, yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for always inviting me to things like this.
Sure. So I'm just waiting on people to join so I can let them in if they're going to join us. We did advertise this at church, and I sent it out to my listserv. You may have seen that.
Yeah, I did.
And we also send it to other affiliates, golf. It's called Greater United Fellowship. So we sent that out as well.
Okay. And I mean, if I'm for sure in the general election, we can do one of these and we'll have more lead time to advertise and stuff like that. So if this doesn't have a lots of attendance, we can still come at it again and for the general, you know. Or whenever, you know.
Others, he indicates that others just may watch from streaming and not on Zoom. So,
Okay.
okay.
So when you're streaming this on, what do you have, like a YouTube?
Yes, Facebook.
Oh, Facebook. Okay. That's a good idea.
So we may just be doing this to a small audience. I don't know who's clicked in, but some people may have. Elder Miller, can you hear us? Pastor Miller?
I can, yes.
Good, good.
Sorry.
We're going to give it a few more moments. And I was reminded that some people will be tuning in, on Facebook. So we'll just go ahead and do our thing.
Okay.
So we are recording. Sister Beverly, how are you?
Thank you. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
There are 7 people watching on YouTube. That's what Sister Scott said. Hold on. Okay, I'll see if one more person will join us via Zoom, and then we'll get started.
All right.
Okay, let's get started. Each and every one of you, thank you very much for this opportunity for us to provide some voter education training. As you know, Bishop Russell has been an advocate for voter education for a significant amount of time. We're glad that Bishop and Lady Russell are getting some respite during their 42nd wedding anniversary, and we wish them well, and we pray for an enjoyable anniversary and also a safe return to us soon. My name is Deacon Michael Kelly. I'm glad that you've taken the time to attend this important workshop. Let me give you somewhat of an overview of what we're going to do. Excuse me. I will provide for a couple of minutes a little bit of history of the voting rights and why this training and voter registration and also voting is so important. The purpose of this training is to provide you with significant information that's important for dates, times, requirements in the state of Arizona, and we have a special guest that I'll introduce soon. We will introduce that presenter, and his name is Avery Zola, and Avery is here with us. He'll do a presentation after my introduction. Following the presentation, we'll have question and answer session. Now, it can be done in chat, or it might be done live, or there might be general questions that Avery receives, and he might be able to provide some answers to folks. And following that, we'll have a wrap up and adjournment. This should go fairly quickly. We appreciate your time. Your time is valuable. And let's get started. Now, this is the history of the right to vote for African Americans and people of color in America. I'll only take a couple of minutes to share this with you so that you know about this and how important it is. The journey toward voting rights of African Americans and people of color in America, it's been a long and challenging road. Now, following the Civil War, the 14th Amendment to the Constitution was developed in 1868. And it granted African Americans citizenship rights. Now, however, these rights did not automatically translate into the ability to vote, as Black voters were systematically excluded from state polling places. And some of you have known this as poll tax. You've known it as, Jim Crow laws. But in response to those issues, the 15th Amendment was created in 1870. And here's what it stated: the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Now, despite, hold on, I need to let somebody in, but despite this amendment, barriers remain. It wasn't until the Voting Rights Act of 1965, that's almost 100 years later, that significant changes occurred. And this act prohibited states from using literary tests and other exclusionary methods. It drastically improved voting access for African Americans in the South. Now, during Reconstruction, which was about 1865, till the early 1870s, a significant number of African American state and legislatures and senators and Congress were voted in to become elected public officials. Now, this resulted in a lot of backlash where people had given their lives for the right to vote. That's what makes this even more important. And in conclusion, today there's modern voter suppression. So the disenfranchisement of Black and Hispanic and people of color, it has gone on since the Civil Rights Act of 1965. And these methods of suppression include absentee and early voting restrictions, stricter voter ID requirements, and restrictions on voter registration. These systematic barriers reduce voting engagement. 1 second, I'll let somebody else in. These systematic barriers reduce voting engagement among minority populations, and today's primary form of voter disenfranchisement involves, restriction of voting for incarcerated individuals, additional barriers including gerrymandering, which is drawing lines so that the candidate chooses the voter and the voter doesn't choose the candidate, limited access to polling locations, and restrictive voting regulations. These challenges significantly impact election outcomes, representative policies, excuse me, and racial dynamics in the US and in Arizona. Are we clear on that? And this is one of the reasons, many of the reasons why we're having this voter education training today. It's my honor and pleasure to introduce you to Avery D. Zola, and he's the voter education manager for the Citizens Clean Elections Commission. It's a nonpartisan group. Avery is responsible for educating the citizens of Arizona on the electoral process. He graduated with a political science degree from Arizona State University in 2018 while interning at the Secretary of State's office under Arizona Secretary Michelle Reagan. Now, in 2021, he graduated with a master's degree in public administration from the Watts College of Public Service and Community Solutions at Arizona State University. And Avery has a background, in campaign management, as a published writer, and he's also an Air Force veteran. And most importantly, he's a dear friend. So with that, I would like to introduce you all to Avery Zola. And, please silently put your hands together for Avery. Good to have you, brother.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. I always appreciate speaking to your community friends and people at church. Today it's important because we're going to talk about what's on your primary ballot. I should call out that on the primary ballot, you won't have any ballot measures, but that's going to be a huge part of your general ballot, the ballot in the general election. We'll talk about where you can get information on those ballot propositions as we go on. Michael, do you want me to share my screen or?
Yeah, I'll let's see. I'm going to allow you to share your screen so that affect the timing. And oops. Okay, let's see. Hold on a second.
There's interview. There we go. And let's see if it lets.
There we go. All right, we're set.
All right, it looks like I'm sharing. Okay. All right, so let's go to the next slide here. So what can you expect on your primary ballot this year? You know that we have a U.S. Senate race, right? Which is a big race. There's the U.S. House, and the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House, these are members of Congress. So when we talk about the United States Congress, the U.S. Senate and U.S. House are going to be representative of that. So Arizona has a lot to say of that. And then the state, we have a corporation commission. That is the only state race we have this year is CorpCom. Of course, you have your legislature, which is the state Senate and the state House. All those races are up. There's retention elections. And I believe that's going to be on your general election ballot as well. This is general election, but you will have school boards and municipal government elections for the primary as well. So you have a lot of stuff to vote on in the primary. And just remember that how the primary works out. A lot of the base votes on the primary, because generally Arizona nationwide, there's low turnout on the primary, but the primary is really where you get a chance to select your candidates. It's when the party narrows down the candidates they want to put forth for office. So it's really important to get to the primary, because by the time you get to the general election, the candidates have really been chosen for you. So make sure you focus on the primary as well. Some important dates and deadlines. So the primary dates, July 1st is going to be your voter registration deadline, and we'll talk about voter registration and the things you need coming up here. July 3rd, early voting begins. So starting July 3rd, you can vote early in person or you can vote by mail. July 19th is going to be the last day that you could request a ballot by mail. So if you're going to be traveling and you need to request the absentee ballot or anything like that, make sure you get in that request before July 19th. Or if you're here and you want to vote by mail, make sure you get in that request as soon as possible. July 23rd, mail your ballot back because you got to give it enough time to travel through the post office. And July 26th is the last day to vote early in person. July 30th is our primary election date. So July 30th is our primary election date. As long as you are in line by 7 o'clock, you will be able to vote, or before 7 o'clock, really. Like I wouldn't show up at 7. But if you are in line at 7 o'clock, you will be allowed to vote. On election day, polls are open from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Understanding your ballot, that's a very important thing. That's why we're all here today. When you go and vote, so early voting starts July 3rd. The primary election day is July 30th. We have 27 days to get informed and get educated about the propositions, or not just propositions, but about the candidates and some of the offices that are up. So we all need to do our due diligence and make sure we get informed. And then we'll talk a little bit about that today as well. So 2024, the election cycle is important. We've been hearing this really for the last, I want to say 10 years or more, but Arizona is becoming increasingly important. It's a battleground state. So this all eyes in the nation will be on Arizona come this election cycle. In Arizona, the electoral process starts with voter registration. So in many of the poll worker positions and things like that, you need to be a registered voter to participate. But that is the first step to to being eligible. And also Arizona has statewide elections every 2 years and in the even number years. Statewide offices are going to have 4-year term limits. Legislative offices are going to have 2-year term limits. So just know that every 2 years, every 4 years, new candidates are coming in office, new cycle of elections go around. So we're always having a chance to, if you feel like maybe a person shouldn't be in office, we always have a chance to right that wrong at the very next election, basically, Elections happen in Arizona in March, May, August, and November. This March, we had a presidential preference election where the parties decided which presidential nominee they wanted to put forth. May is usually local and jurisdictions. August is generally the primary. Long story, this year the primary has been pushed back, so it's going to be July 30th. In November, of course, is the general election day. So in Arizona, we have lots of options on how we vote. So on election day, we can cast our ballots in person at polling places. We can go through vote centers. We can go use the early voting method, active early voting, or even absentee ballots. And the absentee ballot would be if, let's say, you're going on vacation during the election and you don't think you're going to be home in time. Contact the county recorder. The county recorder will mail you an absentee ballot. You could vote it and then mail it back. Unfortunately, the election mail is not forwarded. So if you have even a mail service, anything like that, county election mail will always go back to the county. It will not be forwarded. So if you are not going to be around to vote, make sure you contact the county recorder as soon as possible. They will get a ballot to you. The registration requirements, most of us know this, but it's always good to reiterate just so we can have fresh in our minds. But we know we have to be a citizen of the United States. We have to be a resident of the county of Arizona and the county listed on your registration for 29 days prior to the election. You have to be 18 years older prior to the next general election, so you can register to vote. And then if you are 18 by the general election, then you can participate in that election. And if you're able to write your name or your mark, unless you're prevented by a disability. You're unable to register if you've been adjudicated, incapacitated, right? If you've been convicted of treason or felony, or unless you've had your civil rights restored. If you're a first-time felon, you could contact the county recorder's office and get more information on how you can get your rights restored, or to confirm they are restored, but they're supposed to be automatically restored if you pay all your fines and it's a first-time felony. But still, I would contact the county recorder or even the county recorder and just confirm that you are able to vote. So when do you change your voter registration? You are going to want to change your voter registration under 3 conditions. If you change your address, even if it's just across the street, if you change your name, or if you change your political party. So those 3 reasons require you to change your voter registration, and you can change your voter registration as much as you'd like. It costs nothing. It just takes some time, but you can always update your voter registration. So if you're unsure about any of these things, I would always just re-register. When in doubt, re-register. So the role of elections in Arizona has many moving parts when it comes to elections. The legislature is the one that adopts the laws and govern elections. So if anyone does not like the laws of the election laws, I would direct them to the legislature, right? The legislator who represents us, our district legislators. The voter registration and early voting is administered by the county recorder. So that ball's in their court. Any election day activities like finding the polling places, hiring poll workers, training, tabulating the votes, those are all done by the county election director, right? And then approving the election day voting locations, approving voting day locations, emergency locations, and the budget are the county board of supervisors. So board of supervisors have a lot to do with where the voting locations are and where early voting locations are. So if you are in a neighborhood or in a community and you feel like there needs to be a vote center there and you're like, well, no one's ever, there's no votes in here, please reach out to the county board of supervisors and let them know so they can research and see if it would be, palatable to put a voting center in that area. Certifying state results, developing the elections procedure manual, maintaining the voter registration system, controlling the HAVA money is all administered by the Secretary of State. So all of these entities are working together to direct elections in the state of Arizona. So that's another thing about why it's secure, because we have checks and balances, because no one entity is responsible for all of elections. There's different moving parts there. So activate your political power. Some of you on this call will be familiar with this, and there may be something new on here, but I'll run down the list just so we can have an idea of the many things that we can do to activate our political power. And it's been said many times. I'm not sure who said it first, but voting is the last step on your journey to civic engagement. So usually you're doing all these other things first, and then you get to the polls, and then it starts all over again. But you can volunteer, of course, that goes without saying. You can contact your representatives, council members, or legislators. That is either a written letter, email, phone call, to make sure it's polite, right? You can start a petition, and you can go to the Secretary of State's website to find out exactly how to do that. You could do boycotting or boycotting, but we know what boycotting is. That's when you don't do business with a certain company, or you don't utilize a certain service to send a message, right? To hit them in their pockets. And you, on the flip of that, you could also boycott. So if there's a service or a company that you feel that shares your ideas or issues, your concerns for issues, you can support that company with your dollars, right? You can get involved in your local chamber of commerce. If you are an entrepreneur, if you are business minded, you will want to make decisions in the business community. I would definitely get involved with the local chamber of commerce, and you could also sit in on those hearings as well. Attend the legislative and city council meeting. I always say that when you look at the legislative or council meetings on TV, they have like a little on the azledge.gov, you can actually view the hearings and things like that. And if you look at the audience, they're going to be older Arizonans, they're going to be white Arizonans, and it really does matter who's in those seats. So we would always like to see, when I say we, I guess me and the community, right? We always want to see more of us in those seats. So if you have time, if you can get together a group of people to go and follow a bill or watch a certain hearing on something that's important to you, please go down and sit down in a city council hearing or meeting, because the bodies in the seats can actually affect how they vote. So that's important to know. And you could also comment on some of these bills by using the request to speak program. You got to go down to the Capitol to sign up for it the first time. After that, you could weigh in on certain bills from the comfort of your home. And you could also see who else is supporting the bill, who's against the bill, things like that. But those are some of the ways that you could communicate with our legislature. You can help others register to vote. I think many of us do this in our own capacities. We are like the voting ambassadors for our family. Most of my family, they'll come to me and ask me questions about voting, about the process, about candidates, whatever. But that is actually, part of civic engagement. You're helping people in your community, people in your family, people in your circle register to vote and understand the election process. That is important. You can mobilize for a cause or an issue, right? There's something important to you. Get other people involved. Find other people that the issue is important to, and then mobilize on that. I have attended city council, legislative hearing. It's important to do that. Join the political organizations. There's many political organizations out there. There's an organization to satisfy any kind of curiosity. So, and you can always investigate that. Political campaigns are always looking for volunteers of any talent. Don't ever think because maybe you don't have this or that you won't be useful for a campaign. I don't care if you are just a artist or graphic designer, whatever you do, you can the campaign can utilize it. So reach out to a campaign. You can also contact the political parties and ask them if they are needing any help at any rallies, conventions, anything like that, and they can also direct you to different campaigns. Work at a polling place. You always want to go into a polling location or vote center and see people that look like you. So people of color and young people, it's really important that we step up and step into the role of poll worker. So it makes it comfortable when you're you see a diverse group of people at the polls, is what I'm trying to say. Donate, right? If there's a nonprofit or if there's a candidate that shares your concerns, they are doing something about it, they are active, you can donate your money or your time to that organization, that candidate. And then lastly, we could always vote often, vote in the midterms, vote in the general election, the primary, local elections. Very important to vote. Overview of voting options. Like I mentioned before, we have in-person voting, we have early in-person voting, by mail voting. We have UOCAVA, which is the Uniformed Overseas something. I always forget the acronym, but it's for the uniformed, it's for the military men and women serving overseas and their families. That is the mechanism that they use to vote when they're in other countries. And then finally, we have the absentee ballot. And that is, like I said, if you're not going to be, if you're not on the active early voting list, you would request the absentee ballot. If you are not going to be in the state or in the area or at home during the election, you will want to request an absentee ballot. And there's lots of resources for voting in Arizona. Unfortunately, they are not all in the same place. That is the big gripe that we always hear, but they're not in the same place, but we do have them. BeBallotReady.vote is going to be for Maricopa specifically, and that is where you can check your voter's registration. You can check where your polling location is, things like that. Arizona.vote is where you check to see if your ballot was counted. So you want to give it some time, for the ballots to get back to the tabulation center. But Arizona.vote, that is where you check to see if your ballot was counted. azcounties.org. If you go to their website, they actually have a little election guide where it tells you all the counties that have offices, current campaigns running for different offices. So check out azcounties.org for any counties like county attorney and seats like that. The Arizona Secretary of State's website, azsos.gov, super useful with a lot of information. They're going to have election dates. They're going to have candidate information. They're also going to have past historic election results. If you want to know how the election was last year, you can go to the AZSOS. They'll have that. They also have a new website, or not website. They have a tracking service, trackmyballot.azsos.gov. If you go there and sign up, then you'll be able to track your ballot. You'll get text messages. For those of us in Maricopa County, it's very similar to the Maricopa County text messaging service. So if you have that, you may want to use that. You may want to use both, but that's just another option that we have to track our ballots. What else? The irc.az.gov. If you really want to see what the district lines look like, how they came to be, if you want to, focus down on district lines, narrow down and do real research, you can use the Independent Redistricting Commission website, which is irc.az.gov. So that's going to have all your district lines and stuff like that in. azcourts.gov, that is going to have your information on your justices and judges for retention. I know this year for the retention election for the general, we will have AZ Supreme Court and the Appellate Court on the ballot. So you will have some judges there that you will have to check if you want to retain, yes or no, or not retain. Basically, you can keep the job or are they going to be fired, basically. So the information on the judges is at azcourts.gov/JPR. What else? And then lastly, azcleanelections.gov. We have tons of resources on our website, and I'll kind of talk about those. First, this is what the my.arizona.vote website looks like. I always want to show this just so people know. As you can see, you can search your voter registration status. You can find your polling location. You can request a ballot by mail, check the status of your ballot, all these different things you're able to do by my.arizona.vote. So I would suggest going there if you have any of these kind of questions that you want to get updated on. Now, elections resources for our Arizona's Clean Elections resources. We are always trying to be creative on creating resources for the voters of Arizona and meet voters where they are. We of course have our voter education guide, which most people will probably know us for. Our voter education guide for the primary election and for the general has the state and legislative candidates in it only. So people are gonna see it and they're not gonna see their the city council person or the school district. So none of those guys or girls or gals are gonna be in the voter education guide that we have. Only state and legislative offices will be in there. But it does have county contact information, tips on what ID to have, voter registration requirements, and the candidates each give a 100-word bio and a 200-word statement and leave their campaign website. So use the guide to kind of get to know the candidate and do more research on candidates you may be considering to vote for. Next, our comic book. We have a Captain Activate comic book that I created, that I wrote. I didn't draw it, but I did write it. I'm a writer. And we also have a mascot. We've been at a few events this year with the mascot. The kids love him. Captain Activate is his name. And basically the comic book is a comic book to conceptualize civic engagement for children. The book is aimed at the audience of 4th through 8th grade. And as you can see by the cover, it's led by a young African-American gentleman, but it's also a diverse group of kids that kind of help him on the mission of getting civically engaged. And really what the strong point of the book is that what I'll say is that a lot of times when I'm dealing with younger adults, not young adults, but kids, they really feel helpless. They feel like they can't make an impact. And this book dispels that myth that they can't make an impact. There's lots of things that children can do to get involved in the election. This book showcases that. If you'd like to get a copy of this book, you can reach out to me. The email is right here, ccec@azcleanelections.gov. And we'll be more than happy to ship you a few copies while supplies last. What else? We have debates. Our debates are going off right now. We have a tremendous response from them. We are broadcasting our congressional and our federal debates on different news outlets and of course on YouTube. And all of our legislative debates are on YouTube to be streamed. So all of our debates are streamed, but the congressional and the federal ones are also broadcast. But the good thing about that is that you can go back later to our YouTube channel and look at a debate and get more insight onto a candidate you may be considering to elect or to vote for. All of our questions come from voters. There's also a way on our website to submit questions. If you go to azcleanelections.gov, you actually can submit questions to the candidates. And like I said, I have a gigantic list of all voters' questions, and we use that to create the debate and the topics, I guess. What else do we have? Our website is, of course, it has tons of tools on there. You really got to check it out. We did a revamp of it this year. So what you'll notice about the Clean Elections website is it's going to look a lot different than most government websites. So we do that to be more inviting and to let you know that we're a lot more user-friendly. We have a glossary on there. We have not a tutorial, but we have a section on election security. If you ever want more information on how elections work, how the tabulation process, we actually have information on that on our website. We also have a civics curriculum that goes from 4th grade all the way through 12th grade. that can be downloaded directly from a website. It goes by the state standards, so people that are homeschooled, teachers can use it in school. It won't take away from class time. And like I said, any kind of learning level from 4th to 12th, it can teach and educate them about civics and about elections and state government. So I'm going to go through these frequently asked questions, and then I have the answers on the next page, but I just want to say them so we can all kind of understand the question. So can I vote if I recently moved within Arizona? We've already kind of discussed this. How do I know if my ballot is safe? How can I find my polling location in Arizona? And what should I do if I encounter a problem while voting in Arizona? So these are frequently asked questions that a lot of counties get posed with, and me myself, I get asked, but I don't almost every presentation. So I just wanted to go over some of these. So can you vote if you recently moved to Arizona? Yes, but you must be a resident of the county that you choose to vote in for at least 29 days. So you moved there to Arizona, you got to have 29 days in that county that you want to vote for, or else you have to wait until the next election. How do you know if your ballot is safe? It's a complicated answer, but I tried to lay out a few things here. Again, election security overview is on our website. Also, outside of the election time, because I think that Maricopa County is going to shut their tours down until the election is over, till the primary is over. But you could also take a tour of the tabulation center in Maricopa County, and you could ask them any questions that you ever had about the tabulation process. But first and foremost, our ballot is safe because it's a paper trail. Arizona law prohibits machines being connected to the internet. They call them air gaps. So there's always a paper trail. There's no risk of being hacked because the machines are not connected to the internet. Right here, all elections are air gaps. They never can. I already have that. So no network hackers can get in because they're not connected. Counties can only use election equipment that has been certified by the U.S. Election Assistance Commission and the Secretary of State Equipment Certification Advisory Committee. So you have two entities, one national, one state, that certify every election device or every piece of equipment that is used in an election, right? For that particular election. If anything happens, they have to get all new election equipment or all new whatever piece was disturbed. Counties, Arizona election procedures include checks and balances. So as you know, we have hand counts, we have post-election audits, there's chain of custody procedures. We have bipartisan teams, meaning there's a Republican and a Democrat. There's physical, people looking, people, guarding, and there's cybersecurity measures also to monitor and verify these activities. So there's a lot of checks and balances, and there's a lot of people involved to make sure that our ballot is safe. And I'm sure, you all have heard about the news story about that guy who was trying to take some key fobs or something out of Maricopa County. As you can see, he got caught, and what they had to do is they had to take all the key fobs and they had to replace them. So they didn't have to replace the machines, but he did steal that key fob. They got the key fob back, but just as a safety precaution, they replaced all those key fobs. How can you find your polling place in Arizona? So there's a few different ways, but two ways that I know is going to be beballotready.gov and also, of course, the myarizona.vote. And then lastly, azcleanelections.gov on our voter dashboard. On our voter dashboard, if you put in your address, it'll tell you everything you need to know about participating in elections in your district. It'll give you congressional district representatives or who represents you in your congressional, legislative, school district, lots of information, but it will also tell you your closest polling location or drop box. So those are two or three resources actually. What should you do if you encounter a problem while voting in Arizona? So first of all, you shouldn't be denied a ballot, at least a provisional ballot. For any reason, if you have an issue, they say your ID is no good or whatever. Let's say you're not at a vote center, but you're at a polling location, which is assigned to that person in that neighborhood. You should still get a provisional ballot. Then provisional ballot is providing you contact the county recorder, ensure whatever discrepancy there was. If you're at a wrong polling location, then that's not going to do anything. But let's say you had an ID, the poll worker mistakenly said that it wasn't credible, but it was. You voted a provisional. You contacted the county recorder. They will then count that vote. But outside of that, if you have any issues, you want to contact your county recorder. If you're disabled and maybe they don't have the disabled machines set up, if you feel like you're experiencing any kind of hostility, anything like that, something doesn't look right, you feel like your privacy was violated, you're going to want to immediately contact the county recorder. if the lines are long, if the lights go out, like there's all kinds of things that can happen. But contact your county recorder first because they are the agency that can respond to it quickly. A lot of times people will contact us. They will contact maybe even like the police, things like that. But if it's not like in a 911 emergency, contact your county recorder. And I believe that is it. So I will turn it back over to Michael. And if you all have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you all have.
Okay, go ahead and stop the screen share if you don't mind. Thank you very much. And I want to thank everybody for their participation. Avery, excellent presentation. I do have a question just for you.
Sure.
If you'd be so kind to send me a lot of those links, and what I would do is we will post them on our church website, and we'll make that information available because this is being
Absolutely.
recorded, and other people may have will have the opportunity. Those folks who look at streaming or on Facebook, they'll have an opportunity to review this as well.
Okay.
Considering that there are just a few of us here online, and we can get questions from some of the folks on Facebook later. And you did a great job of covering frequently asked questions. But if we have offline questions, we'll refer to that information that you provided to us, but we'll also, field any questions that we get at church, or in the church office.
Yeah, and Michael, we have an open line of communication. So if you're fielding questions, you could send them to me, and I'll answer them for you. And you could disseminate that however you like. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me personally, or whatever. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay. I don't see any questions in the chat, or if anyone wants to just come off of mute and ask a question, please feel free to do so at this time if you have any questions. And I don't see any as of yet, which just reinforces the excellent job that you've done. I did receive, I don't know if you can see it, but I received this, voter education guide in the mail because I'm a registered voter. We have also, our church has requested 50 copies of this information.
Yes, those are on their way too.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to share with folks that the church office will have voter registration forms that I picked up from the county recorder's office just yesterday. So we have voter registration forms. There are 100. We'll require people to sign in to get a copy of that. And I don't know, Avery, are people, I know people are able to sign ballots online. Are people able to vote or to register online for voting?
Yes, absolutely. They go to, there's lots of links to it, but servicearizona.com is your main mechanism to register to vote in Arizona. Absolutely. But of course, you have the paper form as well if you don't have access to the internet.
We have a paper form. So just include that link in the information you sent us. Okay. Congratulations. I did not know you were an author of that book, and I think that's phenomenal.
Thank you.
I know it's diverse. And we'd also like to request some of those.
Absolutely.
Because we have a school at our church. Okay. If you'd be so kind to send us, say, 50 books, if you spare that.
Absolutely.
We'll share it with our kids, and also with that link, education link, we can educate some of our youth, offline outside of Sunday school. So because we appreciate and respect separation of church and state. As our bishop says, he can't tell you who to vote for, but he implores people to make sure that they vote. And let's see, I don't see any, no one's asked a question. I don't see anything in the chat. If that's the case, I just will give some closing comments and we'll wrap up and adjourn. So once again, I'd like to thank Avery, for this excellent presentation. Even though it's his job, he's an expert at it, and I've really come to appreciate his support for our communities. In summary, voting is not just a right, but it's a powerful way to influence the direction of our communities and our country. Every vote counts and every vote matters. We have voter registration forms, as I had mentioned, at the church. We encourage you and your family to pick up those forms. But if there are any kids in your family that have turned 18, we encourage you to teach them how to vote and teach them the importance of voting, especially not only in the primary election, but the general election. I happen to have met the Attorney General recently, Chris Mays, and Ms. Mays won her election by less than 300 votes. So every vote counts. Additionally, the governor in the state of Arizona, and there were millions of votes cast, she only won her election by 20,000 votes. So your vote counts. So again, thank you, Avery, Bishop Bertrand Russell, in his absence, Pastor Annette Miller. She has been a guiding light and very helpful in the presentation of this town hall, this symposium. And we hope to do it again, before the general election, because this is the most important election in my lifetime. I don't know about you, but this is going to be a real important election as it relates to democracy in America. And that's my editorial. And Xavier being nonpartisan, I give you arm's length from that. So I don't see any comments in chat. I don't see any hands raised or questions with regard to questions from the people who've been so generous with their time. Again, those folks who are on Facebook, and I know there are a number of folks, especially the Scott family, who's always active. Thank you for being involved. And if you have any 18-year-olds or older, and some of these graduates that graduated this year, get them registered to vote. And with that, I just want to say thank you and good night.